Something hunts these mountains, shaped from myth. Formed by the spirit of the mountain man, he lives by the way he hunts. Born of the mountains, blood of the Indian, he survives by hawking and longbow. He's alone, he's free, he's forged by the elements. Journey with the last of a breed, Sasquatch Mountain Man. For Laramy Sasquatch Miller, this has been an epic voyage of discovery in a single season. Black powder has been a way to live off the land. But when it comes to tradition, especially with the terror king of the North American wilderness, disaster can hang on a small copper cap. Now the question is, which is faster, a charging grizzly or a balky muzzleloader?
I better stand up looking, could have turned bad real quick.
A dead grizzly does indeed concentrate the mind. But Laramy's quest for the dangerous game of the mountain men didn't end there. Tooth and claw have not been the only threat, as Sasquatch faced white death on his way to making his winter meat. Laramy has packed the trapper's basket, and as he trekked across the historic names on the old maps, he's lived by a code of ethics that has added a special complexity and meaning to the course of his journey. Tatanka is the name from Laramy's own native heritage for the most revered animal in all the West. And for Laramy, there's only one true way to hunt this icon. For Laramy, the arc of his quest now carries him back to the bedrock of his life, the great shining mountains and the lone hunt for the one animal that most made him what he is, the American elk, or wapiti. Laramy Miller has the sound of the elk's bugle and the sight of its hoofprints to carry him into the mountains. The subtle and sophisticated art of calling elk includes the cow whistle.
Middle of nowhere, chasing Rocky Mountain elk.
You know, Colorado public land bow hunting is tough. I don't care what anybody tries to tell you, it's a very low success rate. We get so much rain that you can't go sit on one water hole and expect to kill, you know, a decent bull or an elk, because they travel so much. They travel 10, 12 miles in one night. If you can kill an elk with a bow in public land Colorado, you've done something.
For the mountain men who preceded Laramy, these lands were all public, open, and free. But they were not all created equal, and even the mountain men had to hunt hard to discover the finest areas. mountain big game is not limited to elk. This young ram has more peaks to climb. Laramy's calling sounds irresistible to at least one bull.
Right there, that's what I live for.
Sasquatch is brought to you by Honda Power Sports. For great deals on gifts that go, it's go time at your Honda dealer.
The marrow of Laramy Miller's bones is mountains like these. Calling and hunting elk are in his blood, even when victory goes to the Wapiti.
Way the hell up on a mountainside, middle of nowhere, chasing Rocky Mountain elk.
One bull may have bolted, but Laramy's calling draws the attention of another. But it's deer and not elk that put in an appearance. For the mountain men, a dog could be as vital as a horse, sometimes in extreme ways. All hope of finding elk vanishes, and cruel famishment beckons mountain men William Sublette and Black Harris. As they snowshoe 500 miles through blinding blizzards, their loyal wolf dog carries a 50-pound pack of jerky. But the Indian dog's pack is torn, and all the jerky is lost. In seeming amends, the dog catches a scrawny hare, but the men are ultimately reduced to eating raw raven. The failing dog can barely keep up on the marches, and now beside a feeble campfire, 3 gaunt figures, unable to travel farther, face starvation. Without elk, 2 of them will have to look to the 3rd for desperately needed nourishment. A cow elk answers.
A cow will make different calls, and each sound and each pitch relates to how she's feeling at that time. You know, you got call to her calf, you've got cow calls to other cows, you've got cow estrus calls. Your estrus calls are when the cows are in heat, they're ready to be bred, and that's what really gets them bulls fired up. And for the most part, they're longer and drawn out, have a lot more energy in them. You know, real kind of long, drawn out, higher pitched. If you got a bull that's getting antsy and you want to calm him down, a good way to calm him down is some cow-calf calls, you know, to make him more willing to come in for the most part. That'll be... You know, just real raw, soft, and low-key. And the better you know the different sounds that elk make, the more success you're going to have. I was real fortunate. I was raised up in a hunting family. I've been hunting elk my entire life. My uncle owned an outfitting business, distributed VHSs back in the 70s and 80s. My grandpa's been hunting his whole life. My dad guided from my uncle. I've been lucky to learn from some of the best. By the time I was a young man, I was already educated in elk better than anybody that could have been out there 20 years.
The Mountain Man way is simply part of an old family tradition. A bull responds.
That's what I live for.
mountain wilderness, Laramy Sasquatch Miller is taking the ultimate test. Hunting elk with bow and arrow on public land is as extreme and challenging as it gets.
He just bugled again up here. See if he won't calm down and bugle again and maybe go after him again.
In camp, Laramy has wild Barbary sheep meat to fix with potatoes and wild onions to give him strength to hunt elk. The Republic of Texas is the far end of the Mountain Man Trail and where Laramy ventured to hunt out at.
That's pretty cool. We got about at 25 yards. Just a bunch of ewes and kids, though. Nothing worth the darn. Still cool, though.
The Caliche Rock trails were once trod by the boots of Spanish conquistadors, then mountain men bent on finding everything from badger to jaguar. For Laramy, the quest was this large wild ram dressed in fringes of long hair. Pounds on the hoof and able to scale rock faces sheer as skyscraper windows. Now, the journey spirals back to the heart of the game for Laramy Miller. Luckily, for all concerned, Laramy has sufficient sheep meat for the moment. Black Harris tells starving William Sublette that their wolf dog must die. Shuddering in the frozen night, a freezing Sublette weakly concurs. Sensing its fate, the dog flashes its fierce yellow eyes and bares its fangs as Harris approaches. But the dog also is too weak to stand, and its growl becomes a pitiful howl as the first blow of the tomahawk descends. The hatchet head then flies off the handle. A wretched Sublette must get up to assist in the assassination, stabbing the dog with his knife. The dog is thrown on the embers of the fire, but it's not dead and kicks itself off. At last, the terrible deed is done and the dog roasted, the mountain men staving off death with their cruel victuals.
Moving right there. See? Got a bull that just headed into the timber up here. I think I'm gonna drop back down and go down the valley so that I can get the wind right and come up blowing. This is for mountain goats, not Sasquatches. This looks like a good little transition area. They're transitioning from their feeding to their bedding area. I'm gonna let out a bugle and see if I can't get a response. I like to stop, in places I think the elk are going to be hanging out at that time of day and either bugle or cow call and see if I can't get a reaction so I'm not bumping elk and walking into elk. Got a bull bugling up the canyon at us. The wind's still a little shifty, so I'm hesitant to move in on it.
It's as if time, going back across the centuries to the old mountain men, has drawn to a halt.
Right there, that's what I live for.
Sasquatch is brought to you by Honda Power Sports. For great deals on gifts that go, it's go time at your Honda dealer.
The wild and free summits of the Rocky Mountains. For Laramy Sasquatch Miller, it's the heart and soul of the way he takes on life.
An elk moving right there. You see him?
The final ascent begins. It's an elk Laramy could take, but it's a bull with more useful years ahead of it. The sacred tenet of the Native American, that the land, the sky, the water, and the game can't be ours to attach deeds to. At best, we may only be stewards and servants.
You see the elk have been traveling through here like crazy. There's game trails everywhere, a lot of fresh tracks and sign, a lot of fresh rubs. There's a big meadow up at the end, up above timberline. I think we're gonna come up here and sit and wait for them to come back and feed. You got a cow track right here. The easiest way to tell the difference between a cow and a bull track. A cow's shoulders will be more narrow than her hips. She gives birth to calves, so it's kind of natural. A bull's gonna be carrying horns his shoulder because his shoulder's gonna be wider than his hips. A cow's gonna be the opposite. Her shoulder's gonna be narrower than her hips. And with age, the older the cow, the more definite that you can tell in their track. You can tell right there that's a real young cow. Her hips are just a little bit wider than her shoulders are. Not much, but just a little. Look right here, you can tell there's an elk bedded down sometime fairly recently. So we gotta go real slow. We're in their bedding area. I usually don't like to disturb their bedding area, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do.
The backbone of the continent. The long trail that winds across land and time. A lifetime in a season. In the taste of the fall wind, Laramy senses the final goal of his journey. Laramy receives an answer. There's more than one bull calling back. Now, drop the bugle and knock an arrow. An arrow is let fly in the woods, and there is one man and one elk to hear it.
Oh, we got this bull to bugle up the canyon first thing this morning. We worked our way up onto this bench and couldn't get him to bugle. And finally we get up on this bench and got him to respond to us again. And he was calling, but he wasn't real fired up. And so I started chuckling at him, and the whole canyon erupted. Right there, that's what I live for.
To live for a life in the wild, a life of freedom, to follow the tracks of the mountain men. That is the Sasquatch way.